Catherine marched up to me while I was polishing my Indian chief, her son standing behind her with that smug attitude like he owned the world. Catherine, the HOA president, wasn't one to ask nicely. That bike belongs to us now, she snapped. Hand over the keys. I thought she was joking, but her face was dead serious. Her son smirked. It'll look better in our garage anyway. I stayed calm. Not a chance. She pulled out her phone. You'll regret this. The cops will be here soon. What they didn't know, I had someone on the inside, someone who'd turned this whole thing upside down. Catherine didn't wait for a response. She pulled out her phone and dialed with that air of entitlement like she was used to getting her way. I'm calling the cops, she said, her voice cold and commanding. This man is stealing my son's property. Her son, still standing behind her, smirked, clearly enjoying the scene. I could feel the anger bubbling up, but I kept my cool. You're making a huge mistake, I said calmly, eyeing Catherine as she jabbed at her phone screen. Stop wasting time, she snapped. You think you can just park your noisy junk on my street and get away with it? HOA rules say I can remove anything that's disturbing the peace. I raised an eyebrow, trying to hold back a laugh. The HOA doesn't even have jurisdiction here. You're wasting your time. Her eyes narrowed. I don't care what you think. My son deserves that bike. You'll see, I'll make sure you lose it one way or another. She wasn't just trying to steal my bike. This was personal. Catherine had always seen herself as the queen of the neighborhood, the one who made the rules. But this time, she'd messed with the wrong person. I didn't need to shout or threaten. I just needed to stay calm. And that's when I made the call, one that would turn the entire situation around. The moment Catherine finished her call, I knew things were about to get ugly. She stepped back and folded her arms, watching me like I was a bug she was about to squash. Her son stood silently behind her, but I could feel his smugness even without him speaking. I kept my focus on the Indian chief, my hands still on the handlebars. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of reacting too soon. I told you, I said calmly, the bike isn't going anywhere. Catherine sneered. You'll regret this. You think you can just break the rules and get away with it. We don't need your noise in this neighborhood. I shrugged. The noise isn't the problem. You're the problem. I was trying to keep it cool, but it was hard not to feel the frustration rising. She pulled out a folded piece of paper from her bag, an official-looking document. This is a violation notice, she said, thrusting it in my face. Your bike is too loud. You've broken HOA rules. And now you're going to pay the price. I took the paper and glanced at it. I didn't even need to read it to know it was bogus. You really think this is going to work? I asked, crumpling the paper in my hand and tossing it aside. You're barking up the wrong tree, lady. Catherine's face reddened with fury, and I saw her son's smirk start to fade. He took a step forward, trying to look intimidating. Mom's in charge around here, he said, his voice dripping with arrogance. You're not going to win this. I looked at him unimpressed. I don't take orders from kids. Catherine wasn't backing down. She walked straight toward me, her heels clicking against the pavement with every step. Her son followed closely behind, a little too eager. When Catherine got within arm's reach of the bike, I saw her fingers twitch like she was about to grab it. Stay away from my bike, I said, my voice low, warning her. But she didn't listen. She reached for the handlebars, trying to pull the bike toward her, as if she could just take it. The audacity. I moved quickly, stepping in front of her, blocking her path. You've got a lot of nerve, I said, my patience wearing thin. She stared at me, her eyes burning with anger. You're just a biker. You don't have any rights here, she spat. This is a community. My community. I shook my head, trying to keep my cool. This is my property, lady. You don't get to make the rules here. The tension between us was thick now. I felt my jaw tighten as I stepped back, letting her know that she couldn't just invade my space like that. But instead of retreating, Catherine squared her shoulders and called her son to help her. He moved in, trying to push me away. Get out of the way, old man, he sneered, shoving me lightly. I didn't budge. My voice was calm, but my words cut through the air like a knife. I've been through worse than you. Don't think you can intimidate me. Catherine's son looked up at her, unsure now. But Catherine wasn't done. You're not getting away with this, she snapped. We'll call the cops, and you'll lose more than just your bike. I knew they were just getting started. Catherine's next move was something I didn't expect. She took out her phone and dialed again. Her voice was shaky now, the facade of control slipping. I'm calling the police, she said, her fingers trembling as she tapped her phone. You're not getting away with this. I'll make sure of it. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Go ahead. Call the cops. You're not getting my bike. The siren started wailing in the distance. Catherine looked at me with a twisted smile. We'll see how calm you stay when the cops show up. I didn't let her see me sweat. I simply took out my phone and made the call. My finger hovered over the screen as I dialed the number I had in mind. I wasn't bluffing. As I made the call, Catherine's smile faltered. She probably thought I was calling her bluff, but she had no idea that I wasn't just some guy trying to keep his bike. I had connections, real connections, and I wasn't going to let her bully me into submission. As the patrol car pulled up, I could hear Catherine's voice rise louder now, as if she'd been rehearsing what she was about to say. "Officer, arrest him immediately. He stole my son's motorcycle." The officer, a young guy with mirrored shades, stepped out of the car and looked at me. Then his gaze shifted to the bike, then back at Catherine's son, still standing with that smug grin on his face. "Ma'am," the officer said, his tone neutral, "do you have proof this bike belongs to you?" Catherine didn't even hesitate. She shoved the same fake HOA violation notice at him, hoping it would convince him to side with her. The officer looked at the paper for a second, then back at Catherine. "This doesn't look right," he muttered, but Catherine was quick to speak up. "Right here, it's all legal. My son is the rightful owner now. It's in the HOA rules, no loud bikes allowed in the neighborhood." The officer paused, clearly unsure of what to make of the situation. He walked around the Indian chief inspecting it, making notes on his pad. I stayed silent watching him, knowing that Catherine's lies were starting to unravel. "Ma'am," the officer said, still skeptical, "I'm going to need more than this. Is there any other documentation?" Catherine's eyes flared with panic. She tried to control the situation, but she could feel the weight of doubt creeping in. That's when I knew it was time. I looked at the officer. "I'm not here to make a scene, but you might want to wait for someone who knows how to handle this." The officer raised an eyebrow, not quite understanding, but then he saw me pull out my phone again. I was about to flip this whole thing on its head. I didn't wait for Catherine to react. With one call, I set everything in motion. "Hey, it's me. The situation is getting heated here. Can you send someone?" Catherine's eyes narrowed as she looked at me, disbelief flashing across her face. "Who are you calling?" she demanded. I smirked. "Just the district attorney's office. Thought I'd have someone a bit more qualified handle this." Her face froze. Catherine's confidence cracked when the patrol car pulled up and the officer straightened, glancing from her to me. Catherine quickly stepped forward, her finger aimed at me like a weapon. "This man is a thief. He stole my son's property. Arrest him." I leaned against my Indian chief, unfazed. "You've got the wrong guy," I said, not giving her the satisfaction of reacting. The officer, still unsure, glanced at Catherine's son, who was now noticeably uncomfortable. "Ma'am," he said, "do you have proof this bike belongs to you?" Without hesitation, Catherine shoved the fake HOA violation notice at him. "This is proof. My son is the rightful owner now. This bike's too loud. We've got rules in this neighborhood." I shook my head, unable to hide my smirk. "The HOA doesn't even have jurisdiction here." "Nice try, though." Catherine's face flushed, but she didn't back down. "This is my community. I make the rules here, not you," she spat, glaring at the officer. But the officer was silent, his face a mask of uncertainty. He looked at me, then at the bike. He wasn't sure what to believe yet, and Catherine's act was beginning to wear thin. Before she could say more, the unmistakable sound of another car pulling up interrupted her. A sleek black car, with government plates, pulled into the driveway. Catherine's smug expression immediately faltered when she saw who was getting out. A man in a sharp suit, flashing a badge. "Afternoon," he said with authority, his voice cold. "District Attorney's Office. We've received reports of harassment and false claims being made here." The officer straightened up, his confusion now replaced with hesitation. Catherine's smile faltered, and I saw her mask crack for the first time. Her son shifted uncomfortably, unsure of what was happening. Catherine's voice wavered as she tried to control the situation. "This man is dangerous. He's a threat to our community." The DA didn't even look at her as he turned to me. "This the one?" I nodded once. The DA turned back to Catherine. "You've just committed fraud, attempted theft, and filed a false police report. Do you realize how serious that is?" Catherine froze, her son's smirk now completely gone. His face turned pale, and he stepped back, glancing nervously at his mother. "Mom, what's going on?" he whispered, a tremor in his voice. Catherine tried to salvage her dignity, but her words were falling apart. "He's a menace. He doesn't belong here. I'm just protecting the community." The DA cut her off, his voice sharp. "Actually, according to property records, this land belongs fully to him. You've been issuing fake violation notices, demanding fines, and using your so-called HOA to bully residents. That's not just unethical, it's illegal." The crowd of neighbors who had been watching from behind their windows now stepped outside, some murmuring in disbelief. Catherine, trying to hold on to whatever power she had left, clenched her fists. "You don't understand. My son deserves this bike. We've worked hard to keep this neighborhood safe, but the DA wasn't buying it. You've been making it unsafe. You've used lies and threats to control this place. That ends now." Catherine's desperation was starting to show. She raised her voice demanding that the officer arrest me. "Why aren't you doing your job?" she shouted, grabbing the officer's arm. "You're just letting him get away with this." The officer, visibly frustrated, yanked his arm free. "Ma'am, step back now." His patience had run out. But Catherine, cornered and frantic, lunged toward my motorcycle, gripping the handlebars like she could just take it. "If the law won't stop him, I'll do it myself." The neighbors gasped in shock. Her son looked away, his face pale. Catherine was no longer the confident leader she had once been. She was a woman desperately trying to control a situation that was slipping through her fingers. That's when I saw the DA reach into his pocket and pull out a small remote. He pressed a button, and the hidden camera near my Indian chief's headlight began to play the footage live. The entire confrontation had been recorded. "Everything's on tape," the DA said calmly, his eyes fixed on Catherine. "Every word, every threat, every false claim. You can't talk your way out of this." Catherine's face went ashen. "You can't do that. You can't record me without permission." The DA smiled coldly. "On private property, actually we can. And this footage is going straight into the official case file." Her son, now realizing the gravity of the situation, mumbled, "Mom, we're screwed." Catherine's world had come crashing down, and she knew it. The DA turned to the officer. "Make sure this footage gets to the DA immediately. We'll be filing charges." The officer moved in, pulling out his cuffs. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for filing a false police report, attempted theft, and obstruction of justice." Catherine struggled against the officer's grip, her voice shrill. "You can't arrest me. I'm in charge here. I run this neighborhood." But the officer wasn't backing down. He cuffed her, and as they led her toward the patrol car, she shrieked, "I'll sue every one of you. You'll all regret this." Her son didn't move to help. He just stood there, hood pulled up, staring at the ground in shame. As the patrol car drove off, a heavy silence fell over the street. Catherine's screams of "this isn't over" were drowned out by the sound of neighbors spilling out of their houses, their faces lighting up with relief. The air felt lighter, as if the weight of her reign had been lifted. I stood by my Indian chief, taking in the scene. It was hard to believe this was the same neighborhood that had lived in fear of Catherine's power for so long. Now people were smiling, some even clapping me on the back. One older man, who I'd never spoken to before, approached me with a genuine grin. "You did it. You gave us our neighborhood back." I nodded, feeling a weight lift from my own shoulders. Catherine had made herself the queen of the block, but now she was gone, and the community was free. People who had once hidden behind their curtains now stood in the open, talking openly, no longer afraid of the HOA's false authority. "I never thought I'd see the day," a woman from down the block said. "We all just let her get away with it." "You don't have to hide anymore," I replied, my voice steady. "We're all in this together." The neighborhood felt different now. The fear had been replaced with a sense of relief and unity. The once muted conversations that had happened behind closed doors were now spilling into the open. The legal consequences for Catherine were swift and severe. News spread quickly that she had been running a fake HOA, one that had no authority in the first place. All the fines she had imposed, the violation notices, the threats, all of it had been part of her personal agenda to control the neighborhood. And now the DA was on her trail. People who had been too scared to challenge her before finally found their voices. The DA announced that anyone who had paid Catherine's fake fines could file for reimbursement, and the entire neighborhood seemed to breathe a collective sigh of relief. The entire structure she had built to control people was falling apart. The DA's office started pressing charges for fraud, obstruction of justice, and attempted theft. It was clear Catherine's power had crumbled, and now she would face the consequences. As the crowd of neighbors slowly dispersed, I remained by my bike, still processing everything that had happened. It felt like a victory not just for me, but for the entire block. For years, Catherine had silenced people, made them afraid to speak out. But now, she was gone. From across the street, a man I'd seen around but never really talked to came up to me. He gave me a firm nod and raised his hand in a salute. "You did the right thing," he said, his voice thick with respect. "You stood up for all of us." I smiled back, appreciating the quiet support. It wasn't just about my bike anymore. It was about standing up to someone who thought they could walk all over the neighborhood. I started the engine of the Indian chief, and the familiar rumble filled the street. As I rolled down the driveway, the sound of the bike echoed like a declaration. It wasn't just about the bike, though. It was a reminder that truth and justice still mattered in this neighborhood. The air felt different now. The tension had melted away, replaced by a newfound sense of freedom. As I rode off into the evening, I could hear cheers from the neighbors, some of them still standing in their yards, phones in hand, recording the moment. Catherine had tried to take what was mine, but in the end, she had lost everything. Her empire of lies had crumbled under the weight of truth, and for the first time in years, the community felt safe. I rode down the street feeling the wind in my hair and the rumble of the engine beneath me. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I belonged here. The bike wasn't just a symbol of rebellion, it was a symbol of standing up for what was right. And in that moment, I knew this neighborhood was ours again.